the learning you have is important, that it becomes more fruitful when you start to share with others, and while you share you make friends, and those friends are your network. And as Jason said, networking is very important, and it could land you jobs, and you can pull some strings, and it could be you could be very quite effective in your role in an organization.
Hi guys, everyone, welcome to episode 1 of CCA's podcast. I'm Marina and I'm the CCA Publications Director, and we also have James with us today, who is CCA Secretary. And today we have Jason, who is a Master Principal Consultant at Oracle, and Karthik, a Cloud Platform Strategist at Oracle as well. And now both our guests today have a very extensive experience working both within startups and big tech companies like Oracle. So yes, again, helping me out today, having that conversation with them is James, and he's very keen in that startup space as well. So hopefully we'll get some conversation going. And today, just to give you a bit of an agenda, we'll be starting off with talking a little bit about our guests' experience working at Oracle, how they got there, and sort of their journeys within the startup space as well. So I'll hand over the mic to Jason and Karthik. And if you'd like to talk a little bit about yourselves, how you made it to Oracle, and little things like what sort of projects you're working on at the moment as well.
Okay, I'll start off. We'll try and do each of these bits as we go along, so we're not turning into a monologue. But yeah, hi, I'm Jason from Oracle, as Miriam introduced. I've been at Oracle since 2008, so that's, looking at the calendar, that's 13 years, which when I first came into it, I thought that when I first started, I probably wouldn't last 6 months. So my intention was 6 months, and then 13 years later, I'm still here. I've got a smile on my face. It's been an interesting ride unto itself.
And hats off, veteran. And Jason, you got a breadth of experience here at Oracle. So it's been 2 years for me here at Oracle. And so hi everyone, I'm Karthik. So I am a tech evangelist, aka cloud strategist here at Oracle, working with some of the large key accounts here in the ANZ region. So I started 2 years ago here at Oracle, and before that I used to work with the telecom company here, which is Telstra, and I had a 7-year stint in there, and before that I was a part of the startup in Melbourne Uni. So yeah. Cool.
And I guess just jumping back to Jason,
Yep.
I remember sort of conversation we had previously where you mentioned it was a bit of a different hiring process for you coming into Oracle. So would you like to chat to us about that?
Yeah, so it is one thing that I do make mention, especially where I say, okay, what is my experience and how did I get in? I'm the work experience kid. So I've been, as I mentioned before, my interview process was actually, here's my CV. It wasn't actually in a PDF or a doc. There's times when you actually hand it over to someone and they actually put it in a filing cabinet. So not even on a USB drive, not on a folder. It was actually a filing cabinet, and that was it. They said, hey, talk to your friend over there and you'll get started. And then I've been around since. So that was back in the late 90s. And I agree. My journey to Oracle has always been an internal one. So in terms of interview processes and how do you need to hustle and get out there, definitely know the hustle, but in terms of how you actually get in there, it was more about the internal networks and the internal worth and value that you create is how I created my path.
Yeah, super interesting. And Karthik, yourself?
Yeah, so one of the most important thing is having a complete LinkedIn profile, and that actually helped me in my journey both at Oracle as well as in at Telstra. So yes, there's CV, resume. When you apply jobs, you would, like there's a Word document you attach, and so that's one thing. But one of the key things is having a complete LinkedIn profile, which always helps you out because people do search about you and they try to see what are your activities and how active are you and what do you do and what are your interests, because when they see your posts and etc., so that gives them an idea of who you are and what your passion, and it also gives them a view on some of your both interpersonal and technical capabilities. So LinkedIn helped me a lot. So that's something which is worth to share.
Yeah, very cool. And I think just sort of leading off of that, I think if you had to give sort of one piece of advice to students, sort of university students, about something they could do at uni to kind of, I guess, stand out and maybe even, again, add to their LinkedIn as well, what would that one piece of advice be, or something they could do?
Actually, I did pick up something from some part of the community that I'm in, from a guy, Mark Gadowski. He's done a whole bunch of stuff around entrepreneurship. Was the CEO of Creative Enterprises Australia, which was a creative tech space up here in Queensland, and he posted this thing around, there was all these things around ATAR and the value around that. He posted this thing around the 7 Cs, which I hadn't seen before, which really stood out to me. It's fantastic. Collaboration, cultural fluency, critical thinking, creativity, character, civic engagement, and communication. So as well as your 3 Rs and stuff like that, the 7 Cs, in terms of that, I'm happy to share a couple of bits around that later after the podcast. But all the things that Karthik sort of made mention brings out those 7 Cs in terms of who you really are beyond what you academically know.
And spot on, Jason. And so like your personal traits are what makes you a person, right? So better person you are, more companies will want to hire you, and you are quite a fit into the company culture. In my journey, some of the things which I learned, which is very important, is being confident, being flexible, being an effective communicator, and self-motivated. And you need to be reliable. So and people, the trust is very important, and learn to be curious, and that's quite important. And also the other important thing is friends are your network. And as Jason said, networking is very important, and it could land you jobs, and you can pull some strings, and it could be you could be very quite effective in your role in an organization.
Yeah, I guess just on that point of networks as well, like as a student, working sort of part-time as well, I realized that just having a group of people to be able to kind of chat through your thoughts about, that's really important, because it tells you whether you want to kind of go in that direction or not. So it can kind of eliminate things for you as well. Not necessarily always have to go, you don't always have to go the way that you say you want to go. You can always change later on as well. Cool. I might just hand it over to James as well, because I feel like he has some burning questions.
Yeah, definitely. Jason, you touched on earlier how you've sort of not been in an interview very much and sort of navigated the roles through networking. Do you want to share some of your experiences around that?
Yeah, the networking side, I think, is very important. So the person that actually got me into this position was a friend of mine from university. Right, so he actually left university 1 year earlier, got this job, and hence because of that, then he said, hey, I got this thing that I wouldn't mind working on. Would you be willing to do this? And I said, yeah, hey, why not? So that curiosity and that network effect, I think goes not just in person, not just what you can do, but what your network is willing to do. So for them to be open and collaborate and say, hey, here's an opportunity, and open doors for others, is great for yourself. But I think it's also, from a community mindset perspective, is being willing to to expand the horizons for others. And hence just even us connecting here on this podcast is happy to connect and engage with any of the people that you that follow this podcast as well.
For sure, community mindset is something that CCA really values. Internally we always send opportunities to each other. Oh, that's a good internship. We'll send it to everyone else who might be interested in it. So yeah, really, really cool.
Yeah, even a call that I had yesterday, a friend of mine that does a lot of things from a lean startup and doing sales, I said, hey, he was looking for someone that did presentations. I said, hey, I know this person that presented at the last hackathon that we did, because she does presentations with data. And said, hey, fantastic. And I just got an email back from her saying, thank you for the referral. As a small business, it is hard to actually do that. And the network effect is as important as what we know ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. Word of mouth referral is so powerful.
Exactly.
Moving more onto the startup piece side of things now. We know that both Jason and Karthik, both of you have had a lot of experiences within hackathon startups, or even in stuff like pre-sales, which is all about getting to know what customer problems are and finding solutions for them. Jason, would you like to start off with sort of sharing a bit about your startup experience or hackathon experience?
Yeah, hackathon sort of started for me probably back in 2016. So I was still late in the game in terms of hackathon's been around for a long time before that. But what I found through this experience, not just the event itself, but being able to take a lot of that fast-paced learning and being able to focus on the execution as opposed to just thinking months at a time and then doing. That fast-paced iteration has really been able to open my mind in terms of what is possible and what can you achieve even in a short period of time. So I had the opportunity to actually create some visualizations that was part of the World Trade Organization when they were looking at some fishery sustainable practices. So someone that I knew reached out and said, hey, can you do something? So within a couple hours, I did some visualizations and presented that work to them. I don't think that opportunity would have happened if I didn't do those things about 5 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. It's super cool. Karthik, would you like to share your experience?
So yeah, the startup, so this is like, I think was over 10, 12 years back. So at the time, cloud computing was quite new, or just a few cloud vendors coming into the market like AWS. And so at the time, we had this research work at Melbourne Uni, and we wanted to commercialize that. And we had a bunch of mentors from Startup Victoria helping us to commercialize the particular R&D tech. And it was actually at the time, we kind of positioned the market as platform as a service, helping helping customers to build apps and scaling it across multiple cloud providers. At the time, there was AWS, RightScale, and there were just other couple of cloud vendors in market. So, but at the time, cloud itself or infra as a service was quite new. We were talking about platform as a service and trying to get customers, develop apps, scale it across a grid-based computing. So it was very highly technical, and but we were fortunate to get some really good mentors from Startup Victoria helping us to, like as Jason said, hey, how do you be a hacker, hustler, and what's the third one, Jason?
Hipster,
yeah. So how do you package yourself, and how do you be confident? How do you try to invite venture capitalists, and how do you present your technology, and how do you come up with some of the business outcomes, how much, when you commercialize it, what would be your profit and loss over the years. So it was quite a lot of learning for us. When we did secure some funding from OSAI, and it was quite fun, and it was also quite adventurous. And again, it goes back, like, it's all about you trying to learn from experience, and not everything is rosy and fun, right? So in a startup, you go through a lot of ups and downs, and you try to be much as fluid as possible. So you kind of learn from your mistake, adapt yourself, and again try to re-engineer things. And try to be successful. So yes, startup is very adventurous, and it sometimes is very bit scary, and it makes you work quite long hours. And but again, you would have it would be much more a lot of experience you would have when you're trying to build something from scratch, taking it to market, and calling it it's your own.
Yeah, for sure. There's lots of things to think about. That hacker, hustler, and hipsters. Oh, sorry.
And James, I just need to put this in perspective. Is I've never been in a startup. I've never done that VC work and gone out on my own. By the time that I got to it, I don't think I had the personal the setup to do that properly. But that being said, there's no reason why you can't conduit into those areas. There's no reason why you can't help startups actually get to where they need to go, because it's not for everyone, and it's not you need to be mindful about what you're getting yourself into. It can be on the surface fantastic and all that kind of stuff, but it's a lot of hard work. And not every business that we think is a startup is actually a startup. So you go in for the experience and learn a lot of stuff, but it may not be for everyone.
Yeah, and too much hard work, Jason.
Yeah, we've definitely heard through our entrepreneurship evenings, other events, hearing from founders and other people in the startup space, it does sound like a lot of hard work. Sort of tying both your sort of careers at Oracle and your experiences in startups and hackathons together, we were really curious to see how your startup hackathon experience have helped you within your roles at Oracle.
Yeah, massively. I think one of the things that I'm probably very passionate when I speak to customers and other companies is the speed of change. All right? So if you think about from a startup what they're geared for in terms of exploring the unknown, because they're trying to understand the market, trying to research in terms of the uniqueness around their solution, then it's all about that speed to understand whether it's actually worth doing or not. Now, the whole corporate space is, yes, we're geared very differently in terms of what they're trying to do as businesses, but also the assumption that, yeah, we've got plenty of time, we've got plenty of money, we can actually take our time to do this, because if we do something wrong, then that in itself is actually going to cost us a lot of money. So one of the things that I do bring from that startup space is, hang on, by taking a long time, you're missing opportunities. Also, you potentially may be spending a lot more money than what you should be to actually do this. The other bit that I sort of talk about with these customers is if you don't actually talk to your customers, then are you building something that they don't want, right? So all the analysis in the world is not necessarily going to give you that real feedback that they're going to give you. So all the things that startups do, I try to bring back into that corporate space, and whether it's about pilots, whether it's actually let's do more research, but actually execute and move that needle forward is definitely something that I talk to a lot of customers about.
That's really cool. I think bringing the sort of lean and fast and agile approach and putting into lots of iterations and having that mindset, bringing that into the corporate space sounds really powerful. And having customer discovery and talking to your customers is such a valuable tool that I don't understand why more people don't use. But yeah, that sounds really cool.
That's another 15-20 minutes of that.
Definitely. Yeah, Karthik.
Now, so the rate of technology change is outpacing training, and and our customers are seeing this. And so one of the key things, as Jason said, is taking a fail-fast approach, and digital transformation is being one of the latest disruptor in the market. And our customers and you could see companies are trying to see how they could be disruptive and take sustained competitive advantages. So one of the key things is how do I enable myself with the right skill so that you navigate through that force. And one of the key things is keep learning and be, like I said, be curious to learn more, and that would help you to fill the skill gap, which you would see in critical areas, such as, for example, right now these days, there's cybersecurity, cloud computing, DevOps, where as an IT professional, I need to keep abreast of all these new tech in place, keep continually learning, and also work with our customers to see where their journeys are, and you co-create things. So yeah, fail fast, co-create are the latest buzzword, and keep that in mind.
Yeah. Definitely. I think continuous learning and not wanting your skill set to fall out of date is so important, and I love the co-creation element as well.
Yeah, I think as like uni students, that's probably something to keep in mind as well. Like going forward, things are going to change and you're going to have to adapt to those changes. With that being said, I think we've sort of hit our time limit. So thank you so much for chatting to us today, Jason, Karthik. Really appreciate you taking the time out. And hopefully, we can take some of this advice on board, and some of our members can take a bit more of a look into startups as well.
Yeah, if, as I said right at the beginning, if any of the cohort that listens to this wants to reach out, then I'm happy for you to pass my details on.
100%.